So you hurt your back doing squats 6 months ago and you've been scared to get back into them ever since. Your back tightens up as you go through the motion. Your brain is like, alert, alert. It tells you stories that you're gonna hurt yourself when you do this lift again, and you really don't feel powerful coming out of the hole because of some pain or just because you're scared of what could happen. And you're annoyed because you wanna feel super powerful, you wanna have that fuck you energy that comes with lifting heavy, but you just can't get back to that feeling. Well, I had a client who was in that exact same scenario, and today I'm spilling the tea on how exactly we got her from being totally scared of back squatting to PRing her lift in just 3 months. I'm gonna share with you the exact 3-step framework that we used, and by the end of this video, you will be able to take that and run with it and apply it to your own squats if you're having difficulty with that right now, so you can also get back to feeling that good energy from the gym again. Hi, I'm Dr. K. I am a strength coach and a physical therapist, and I help women who want to feel fit and strong in the gym to get over pain, overcome setbacks so they can get back to lifting in the gym and feeling like a badass in the rest of their life again. If that sounds like your vibe, go ahead and subscribe and stick around for more. So the first phase I use with all of my clients is called the calm shit down phase. Pain feels super scary and frustrating, and the first thing that we want to focus on doing when you are having a pain response is to figure out how to lower down the level on that pain ASAP. With my client, her back pain would flare up when she would be sitting for a long time, like sitting at her desk for work or sitting in the car for a road trip, on a plane. It would also be really irritated when she would bend over to pick something up. When she went to stand back up, she kind of had to stand up like an old lady holding her back, you know? And then also when she was at the bottom of a back squat, hence her problem with the squatting motion, even after 6 months of dealing with the pain. So if you'll notice, all of these motions have one thing in common, and that is spinal flexion. So bending forward at the spine. More particularly in this case, the lumbar spine, the lower part of your back, because that's kind of what tucks under when you get to the bottom of a squat. That is what is bending forward when you're sitting. Basically, when your hips are flexed and you're in a seated position, everything from your hips up to your middle of your back, sometimes into your upper back as well, is in a flexed position. So what that tells me is that her spine is very sensitive to this flexion position right now, and what we want to do is A, avoid that position in really long periods of time at all costs. For right now, disclaimer, just for right now, so we can calm shit down. We'll get to that later. And then the second thing we want to do with this type of pain is to find a direction that doesn't irritate it, and we want to do a whole bunch of that. Now, this method that I use for treating back pain is called the McKenzie method, and what it involves is finding your body's directional preference. And that's basically just fancy for saying what direction your spine likes to go in that does not increase pain. So we test out what direction feels good, and then we want to do a whole bunch of that in the first phase of the rehab program. So this is how we run the test. I'm going to show you and speak over it. So in my client's case, like I said already, it hurt to bend forward. So in that case, we want to explore the opposite direction, or extending. So what we did was I had her lay on the floor. She propped up onto her elbows until she felt a little stretch in her back. As long as it wasn't increasing the pain overall, it was okay. If she felt a little something in her back, but it wasn't getting worse, it wasn't spreading around, then that was okay to proceed. I had her hold that for a minute, then she went back onto her stomach to just get into a neutral position, and that seemed to feel good. The pain and the tightness that she felt when she was in that extended position had gone away. It was not more irritated than when we started. Perfect. Now we're going to progress to the next level, and that is going to be a press up. So then I had her put her hands underneath her shoulders, press up as far as she could until she felt a stretch in her back, come back down. If the pain went away, again, we were fine to proceed. And we ended up doing a whole bunch of those press up motions, and she ended up feeling better after that. So that's pretty much how I find a client's directional preference, or how you can find your own directional preference if you want to do this at home. So after we ran that test and we figured out that her back liked extension, it didn't like flexion, we already knew that from the start, so we want to avoid that for now. We want to do a whole bunch of this extension motion because it actually makes her back feel better. So we're going to integrate that now into her movement snacks. And movement snacks are something really important to do a couple times a day at least, and multiple times in the week. I usually recommend 3 to 5 times a week to do movement snacks because they're quick movements, obviously, that are getting right to the point of where we want to be spending our time, calming things down. We don't want to do like 5 million exercises to take 3 years to do, like literally 3 snacks, maybe 4, and that's it, because I want it to be very potent. So the snacks that I gave her were obviously the press-ups, because we found out that that motion is really good at calming shit down. And then we also did some bridges, we did some swimmers, and we did some banded hip kicks to the side and kicks backwards. So basically, all these movements have either a neutral spine or a spine that's going into extension in common. We are not fucking around with flexion right now. It's kind of like you have a paper cut on the back of your finger, and the more that you do flexion, 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 it's just gonna irritate it. What we wanna do is keep it neutral or go into an extension motion a whole bunch, which is what these exercises do for her back. And that way things will calm down, things will heal over, things will scab over. This is just an analogy. And then later on, we'll figure out how the flexion feels. Now, phase 1 can last a week or 2, it could even last up to a month. It just depends how irritated your symptoms are. In the case of my client, we did this for a month, which sounds like that's crazy, which yes, but she had also been dealing with this pain for a long, long time. So things take time to calm down, to heal up, to feel ready to explore new ranges of motion that were before very irritating, which then led us into phase 2, which is the build shit back up phase. Now, going back to what I mentioned before about not avoiding certain movements forever, this is where those movements that were a little sticky can come back into play. And this is the problem too with a lot of traditional rehab. They hear you say, this motion bothers me. Okay, well, we're never gonna do that again. Just like shelf it, say goodbye to spinal flexion, say goodbye to deadlifts, no more back squats, we're never doing that again. Okay, well, I say fuck that. This is the part that I actually like the best with helping my clients, because it's showing them that these movements are not actually inherently dangerous and that they can be eased back into over time as long as the dosage is good for you. So this is the test that I ran my client through to see if her back was feeling safe to do some of that flexion motion again. So this is how we did it. I had her do a couple press ups, see how things were feeling. If things felt pretty good, all right, keep that in mind. Next, I had her lay on her back. She bent her knees, brought them into her chest, pulled on her knees so she could feel a little stretch in the back, and then put her feet back down. I had her do this 10 times. Then I had her flip over and do press-ups again for 5 times just to see if that made anything feel yucky in that motion again. After that, I had her just walk around a little bit, see how it felt overall. If it felt fine, if her back did not feel irritated after, if things were not feeling blocked, if things felt good overall, then that's a good sign that we can continue with this process. So that was an indicator that her back felt safe with the flexion motion, and we were gonna build on this. So I had her integrate this previous sequence I just told you about into her movement snack so that her back would be exposed to this flexion motion in a safe way, in a very structured way, and in a very frequent way, because we want to make sure that that stimulus is getting to the body as often as possible, so your brain can be like, oh, this is safe, we do this all the time, no big deal. As opposed to if you're not really doing this gradual exposure to flexion and you just go right back into deadlifting, your body's like, what the fuck? We haven't done this in like 6 months. This is not okay. And then there's pain again. So we definitely want to make sure that we are having some frequent exposure to flexion throughout the day in the movement snacks. I also added into her movement snacks a little bit more flexion-based strengthening motions. We did some dead bugs. We did some straight leg raises. We even did some curl-ups. Yes, I know, McGill Big 3. And then in her training, we were getting into a squat block. So how I mentioned before, there was 4 weeks that we did more of the extension-based movements, and we did that for 4 weeks. So 4 weeks is actually a really good amount of time for a training block, and that's when you do the same exercises for 4 weeks in a row in order to build adaptations. So it was actually very good timing that the calm shit down phase was lasting for 4 weeks so that we could train up some patterns that felt safe for her, things that were in either extension or neutral spine position. And now it's time to get into a new block of training. So here's where the squats are making their debut. Again, we are never, ever avoiding a movement forever. We're going to avoid it for now while things calm down, and then we're going to integrate it back into the training as you can tolerate it. So then the second block of training that I had her doing involved some squats, but we did not go all the way ass to grass right away. We didn't go heavy loads right away. We just started with a box squat, which I talk about ad nauseum on this channel because it's just a really good method of entry if you're having back pain. So we did a lot of box squats just to get herself feeling comfortable with that motion. We also did a lot of single leg work, which we also did in the previous block, but we're continuing it here. It's really good to be able to strengthen one leg and the other separately. And also when your legs are in a split position, like something with a split squat, your back is kind of in a neutral position, so it doesn't mess around with that position too much. And throughout the phase 2 build shit back up phase, we kept an eye on her symptoms. If anything ever went above a 5 out of 10 overall, then we would assess where it was irritated, what movement might have done it, what weight, what like maybe a life event came up. We would figure out what the culprit was, and then we would edit that as necessary so she could continue to move in some capacity but keep it tolerable. And finally, phase 3 is the full send phase, which is getting back into training, not really having any precautions in terms of movements that we're avoiding or movements that we're tiptoeing around. We're just going back to, full depth squats, explosive movements, basically just going back to full training, but keeping an eye on things just to make sure that the last phase of this, your body's still cool with everything, you're still able to make adaptations in the gym, but we're not reverting at all back to square one. I don't have anything special to explain about phase 3. It's basically just regular training, but in that realm of things, I want to mention that a lot of times typical training programs are really missing a lot of rotational and lateral motions, so I definitely made it a point to have those things be in the training. So things like Copenhagen planks, star planks, med ball throws, things like that where there's rotation, there's lateral motions going on, just to have a really well-rounded strength program. So I compiled the skeleton of how I run my programs and what I just explained to you today in a free resource that I have linked down below. It's called the Pain-Free Lifting Blueprint. And this is exactly, again, how I get my clients from being scared of lifting to PRing in the gym in 3 months. If that sounds like something that you want to know more about, you can go ahead and get it down below. And if you are wanting some more help with your own situation, then you can also feel free to book a free discovery call, and the link for that is also down below. So go ahead and check it out if you're interested. Otherwise, thank you for being here, and I'll see you next week. Bye.